Hello my friends and welcome back to The Garage. Today on the channel we're taking a look at a nostalgic favorite, the Wing Gundam Zero, or simply Wing Zero as most fans call it. What better way to celebrate Gundam Wing's 30th birthday than to release Wing Zero in the real grade line? Let's celebrate Wing's anniversary together and go over this kit from runners to completion. Before we embark on the review, please be sure to drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it, maybe even consider subscribing. We're always talking Gundam on this channel and it would be great to have you in the Gunpla Garage community. The real grade Wing Zero is made from 12 runners. Across these runners we have 362 parts total, molded in 8 different colors. The kit on screen has been straight built with panel lining applied. Taking a look at this kit from the inside, we can see a highly detailed inner frame. What looks really nice to me is all the pistons and hosing on this kit that gives it that realistic mechanical detail, fully living up to the real grade name. The details here are well defined. With the outward armor applied, we can see Wing Zero has a lot of hatches and panel lines, with multiple armor colors providing a nice contrast to this classic design. The armor has small cutouts letting the inner frame poke through, increasing the detail of the model while also increasing the realistic aesthetic. Wing Zero has a significant proportion update that I like quite a bit. The look here is more slender and less bulky. The wings have also seen a large proportional expansion as well. This may not be everyone's cup of tea given how nostalgic this design is for a lot of people, but for me personally, I think this is the best Wing Zero has ever looked. The increased wing size looks more powerful to me and gives the Gundam a sleeker, more agile looking silhouette. Assembling Wing Zero was fairly straightforward, though there are a couple things I'd like to point out. This kit has a lot of keyed joints throughout its assembly. These keyed joints are nothing new, but I think this might be the kit that has the most keyed joints of the real grade line thus far. I greatly appreciate the keyed joints here as they're all in areas that hold a lot of weight or would be easy to spread apart during regular articulation. Some of the keyed joints like the chest outward reach swivel would be quite hard to put back together if you ended up splitting these parts during articulation. This kit does have a decent part count, with the leg being the most dense portion of the build. This all stems from the transformation this kit has baked into it for Neo Bird mode. Even though the legs were the most complex part of the build, it was still simple and easy to put together. This is a very intuitive, relaxing build to assemble. To no one's surprise, Bandai's engineering and piece fitment was perfect, with no pegs or slot holes needing to be modified to fit. No parts were hard to put together either, everything snapping together flawlessly. While I found the assembly to be easy, I will say there are a handful of really small parts here on the build. Thankfully, there's only a handful of small parts here on this build, so it's not bad, but if you don't like small parts, this may be something to look out for. Like the real grade Gundam 2.0 that came before it, this kit does not use any advanced mobile suit joint pre-molded parts for its construction. Panel lining this kit was a breeze, which is a wonderful change of pace from the previous releases we looked at this year. Everything on the build has been panel lined on the runner with Tamiya accent color black and cleaned up with Zippo lighter fluid. Using this method was quick and easy. I didn't have any issues cleaning up panel lines after they had been applied, and only had to do minor touch-ups with a pen on a few lines that I accidentally overlooked while lining on the runner. The details and panel lines on this kit are well chiseled, which makes the panel lining portion of this build so easy. There are some extremely small details like the venting on the back of the yellow trim in the thruster that may be so small that panel lining with a pen would be a little tricky. If you're going to panel line this kit with a pen, I'd highly recommend the Pigma Micron .003 pen, as some of the details here, especially on the face, may be too small to line with a pen that's of larger size. Like many other real grades, the Wing Zero handles seam lines fairly well with a few small areas. We have a seam line down the middle of the front thigh as well as the bottom section of the foot, both of which are easily able to be masked as panel lines with a quick swipe of our Pigma pen. The seam line down the middle of the torso under the arm as well as down the middle of the wing binders looks to be an intentional design choice, as the panel is curved leading into the seam line, with the seam line itself being far too deep to reach with a pen. I left these seam lines blank, and to seal them up would require more than just cement, more than likely requiring putty, as they're pretty deep seams. There's always going to be seam lines on model kits, and the seam lines here are rather inconspicuous. They're not blatantly out in the open, and usually covered by other details, making them hard to notice. The color accuracy for Wing Zero is perfect. Like all of the real grades that came before it, the Wing Zero is fully color separated, leading to a parts heavy but color accurate model out of the box, even including the eyes. Though for the Wing Zero, we do have a lot of attention to detail on the inner wing binders that could be even more impressive by adding some paint details. If you wanted to do a straight build with a little customization, there is some potential here. Adding these details wouldn't be too difficult either. For stickers, we get the typical spread of Bandai stickers for caution markings. You'll notice on this kit I didn't clear coat it, and that's because I generally don't like these stickers. I've used real grade stickers many times in the past, and they've done an okay job elevating the build to a higher standard, but over time they have the potential to lift. The stickers on my copy of the Wing Zero were fairly standard for a real grade, though I did have a few that felt as if the adhesive was relatively weak. These stickers will be removed after this review so they can be replaced with proper waterslide decals. These stickers will work if you're a new builder who wants to elevate their build, but I would implore you once you're ready to look into waterslide decals as they really elevate the quality of your build. The white outlining from the sticker on the blue pieces sticks out like a sore thumb, and they don't look passable on the red pieces either. While it is a nice inclusion, I'd like to see Bandai step up the quality of these stickers to make the adhesive a little bit better. The nub placement on Wing Zero is very good, with more than half the kit being undergated. The parts that aren't undergated primarily have their gates on the edge of the armor, making for an easy time using single-bladed nippers to get a nice cleanup of the parts. With the colors here being so vibrant for the red and dark for the blue, you do run the risk of easily scarring the plastic if you're not careful with your nub cleanup. There's a few nubs here, especially on the blue pieces, I would absolutely recommend you sand with a gun primer razor or glass file. A few nubs have obnoxious cleanup. One such example is the hands, as the gate placement is right on the edge of the fingers, as well as some of the piston areas on the back of the leg. For these, I used a hobby knife and scraped these areas lightly and got them as clean as possible, but they're not perfect. While undergating helps get us a cleaner build, I will mention that some of the undergated areas have a large footprint that make cleaning these areas up more of a hassle than if they had just been gated at the edge of the armor. The easiest example to see this is on the inner wing binder on the gray framing at the top. You can see where the nub used to be and just how far it used to protrude onto the plastic. There are some nubs directly in the middle of some parts, but these coincide with the mold line, so you'll want to sand this anyways. When it comes to mold lines, we do have some fairly present mold lines on the upper bicep area. With a few scrapes of the knife, I was able to flatten these down and make them smooth, eliminating the mold line entirely. There is one more mold line on the forearm armor that I didn't notice until placing the stickers. After the review, I'll be removing the sticker and sanding this down flat to eliminate it. Overall, if you take your time to sand the nubs down on these dark and vibrant armor areas, as well as the careful removal of these undergated parts, you'll get a really nice looking Wing Zero out of the box. The few mold lines here are easily manageable with just a little bit of sanding to remove them. Most of the undergating here saves you a lot of time, removing the need to spend hours sanding. The parts you do need to sand don't diminish the high quality of the nub placement on the Wing Zero. With the build covered, let's dive into articulation. The head is on a swivel in the torso and a ball joint in the head, giving us a decent look upwards and a fair look downwards. The head can rotate 360 degrees all the way around, but it's very tight with the chin and Vulcan covers. The head can tilt left to right just a little bit. There's an ab crunch in the torso to give us a little bit of forward crunching motion. There's a slight tilt left to right in the upper chest area, but it's a subtle amount. The torso can rotate around on the waist 360 degrees. The front skirt is on a slight up and down swivel in a ball joint, so it can swivel around a bit and move out of the way for leg articulation. The side skirts can slide outwards and connect to the waist on a ball joint. The skirt themselves end at a swivel, giving us a ton of articulation just on the side skirt alone. The rear skirt is mostly static, locked into place in mobile suit mode, but can move for the transformation. The bottom of the waist leg connectors can slide up and down to drop the legs a little bit more for articulation. With the left leg dropped and the right leg tucked up, we can see that the leg drop does buy us some decent articulation, with the left leg kicking forward a full 90 degrees, whereas the tucked leg is only about 75 degrees. We can split out completely flat no matter if the leg is dropped or not. We can kick backwards about 40 degrees, with the leg always dropping as you attempt this. The upper thigh does have a swivel for 90-degree outward rotation of the whole leg. The upper thigh has a small swivel, allowing the hip to kick out a bit for some wider stances. The knee is double jointed, allowing you to fully compress the leg. The rear calf armor slides during this articulation. The front shin can kick forward a bit, and I believe this is because the front shin armor covering the foot can be restrictive, showing that Bandai thought ahead to get us better forward foot articulation. The rear heel armor can swivel inward and outward very slightly. The foot can rotate around 360 degrees. The foot can swivel forward to backward a bit, which is greatly helped by that forward shin movement. The front toe can swivel downwards and thankfully not upwards, increasing the stability of the kit. Finally, the leg can tilt left to right a decent amount. The arms have a swivel in the torso, allowing them to reach forwards a little bit. The shoulder armor itself is on an up and down swivel, so it can point upwards and downwards. The shoulder armor has a small flap that can swivel at the bottom, and the armor itself can split, revealing a thruster in the middle. The thruster is on a swivel but will need tweezers to articulate it. The top armor flap can open to reveal a stowed beam saber, and no, Wing Zero cannot articulate enough to naturally grab it, but it can get pretty close. The arm is connected to the torso on a ball joint, so it can swivel around in all rotations. Using the ball joint, we can also rotate the arm 360 degrees for some windmill punches. The shoulder itself can swivel outwards for a nice T-pose, and the shoulder can move independently of the shoulder armor, which is really nice. There is a rotation in the bicep so the arm can rotate 360 degrees. The elbow is double jointed for a full bicep curl. The wrist is on a rotation so it can rotate as well all the way around. Finally, the hand is on a ball joint so it can swivel and rotate as you see fit. The backpack has two thrusters that can swivel upwards and downwards. The wings have a swivel so they can swivel 90 degrees inwards and outwards. The wings can rotate on the swivel inward and outwards, only being stopped by the arms. There are two swiveling arms in the connector for the backpack to wing connector. There is a rotation at the end of the wing and a slight inward and outward swivel as well. The wings themselves can open up and spread out, revealing the thruster and some really nice interior detailing. There are 4 swivels on these points, and the wings connect to these swivel points on a ball joint so you can get some really nice expressions with just the wings themselves here. With these wings open, we can slide a knob on the engine to spread open the thruster at the end, which is a really nice gimmick. For accessories, we get a pretty simple loadout with the Wing Zero. On the chest, we can open the Vulcan cover and deploy the Vulcans. The manual says to rotate the head, but I found it easier to just remove the head. The Vulcans do take some precision tweezers to deploy them. There's a small opening hatch on the front chest to show some yellow venting. We get 2 beam sabers and their respective blades. We get the Buster Rifle, which can connect with some rotating connectors in the back. It can be held in both hands, however you see fit. Whether you want to dual wield or double barrel is up to you. The shield looks good here and has a sliding gimmick in the front that extends the beak, so to speak. The front fins can swivel outwards and are geared so both remain flush. Finally, we get 2 weapon holding hands, 2 closed fist hands, and 1 open expressive hand. And that just about covers all the accessories. The Wing Zero can transform into its Neo Bird mode. The transformation for this is quite simple in most areas, with the legs being the most complex. I would start with the legs, as everything else is a bit more simplistic. The legs have to be compressed the exact amount, otherwise the foot won't lock into place as it should behind the leg armor. Once the legs are situated, you lift the rear skirt and swivel the torso to lock it into place. Both arms and the shoulder armor swings downwards, kinda just hanging out at the side awkwardly. For the wings, you spread them out and swivel them outwards and flat parallel with the body. The final step is to add the beam rifles to the shield, then swivel the arm connector so the shield can properly connect to the backpack. Open the small hatch on the rear skirt for the action-based connector, and you have Wing Zero in Neo Bird mode. You can even hang on to the rear skirt in this mode for some swooshability if you wanted to. Articulation is the soul of posability, and while the articulation on display for Wing Zero is outstanding, I think it's fair to mention that posing this kit can be a bit of a challenge. My best recommendation to you is to get a stand, as this kit was ultimately made for one, especially with that wing binder opening gimmick. The increased size of the wing binders makes this an extremely back-heavy kit. I thought the Epion was decently back-heavy, but Wing Zero is substantially heavier. The ever-simplistic and effective Kotoki pose is difficult to achieve with this kit because of the weight of the wings. To stand without any weapons, the wings need to be nearly perpendicular to the body, very close to the shoulders, and the kit will still need to be leaning a bit forward. You can use the heavy payload here to your advantage by posing the Buster Rifle and shield forwards to evenly distribute the weight while keeping the Gundam in a more relaxed pose. Even though Wing Zero has some quirks with balance with a leg step backwards and the weapons aim forwards, you can still get some expressive poses while the Gundam is standing on the ground. While the balance can be a bit quirky, the kit has another detraction I need to bring up. The ball joint connection from the shoulder to the torso is one I find to be unreliable. While a ball joint works well for the Shining or God Gundam, here on the Wing Gundam we have a very heavy payload, both with the Buster Rifle and the shield. The ball joint buys us a little bit of expression in exchange for a less stable arm connection, and that is not a good trade-off to me. In my posing tests, I noticed that with the arm fully extended, the ball joint wasn't very tight, and this gets exasperated by the Gundam's heavy payload of weapons. If you keep the Buster Rifles combined and extend the arm fully, it wants to get droopy. I did a small shake test with the new Wing Zero against the old high-grade Wing Zero, the old real-grade Wing Zero Custom Endless Waltz, and the old real-grade Wing Gundam Endless Waltz. These older kits have been built for 7+ years now, and this new Wing Zero was weaker than all of them. This joint is easy to stiffen up with some joint guard or CA glue on the ball joint, but I don't have a lot of confidence that the shoulder joint is going to withstand prolonged articulation in extreme poses without some assistance. With all those shortcomings out of the way, I do want to say that this is an extremely articulate and posable kit once you get it on a stand, and that's really where this kit shines. The expanding wing binder gimmick really makes this kit worthy of spending the extra money to get a stand. For a smaller size kit, it really brings a decent amount of shelf presence to the table with this look, and you're able to easily recreate scenes like firing towards the space colony and atmosphere, firing at the bunker door, and the rolling Buster Rifle attack, and it all looks amazing on this kit. We've reached the end of the review where we go over the pros and cons. I like to keep this channel positive, so we'll cover the cons, then go off on a high note with the pros. For the first con, it has to be what we just covered. The posability is decent but isn't without its quirks. The back heavy wings will challenge you to get creative, but if you use your imagination you should be able to pull off a number of fun poses while the kit is standing. However, the more simplistic poses like the Kotoki pose are harder to pull off without having the kit leaning forward a bit. The follow-up point to this is definitely going to be that arm to shoulder ball joint, as it's a joint I don't have a high degree of confidence in. I really wish this was a socket and peg type of joint, as those are much more reliable with these Gundams with heavy weapons. Getting a stand is going to give this kit a whole new range of poses, but it does mean increasing the price tag of this kit to bring it to its full potential, though the effects of this kit on a stand are undeniable. The second con is going to be some of the bizarre gate placement that's in some areas on this kit. Some of these undergates are really big and would have been better off as regular gates on the edges rather than an undergate, though this might have been a necessity for the molding process, I'm not really sure. I also wanted to mention that some of the stickers here had some questionable adhesive that I don't think will last the test of time. These are 2 points I felt were minimal enough that they didn't deserve a full con for themselves, as the rest of the gates were perfect and only a couple of the stickers felt funky. Starting with the pros, I want to mention that the aesthetics of this kit are quite a step up from the old high grade and even the earlier Wing Gundam Endless Waltz kits we saw at the beginning of the real grade line. The color separation and contrast here is really nice, and I do like the slender, more modern look of the design over its original proportions. It looks sleeker and fits the motif of a fast flying type better over the original. The second pro is going to be how easy this kit was to panel line and clean up. I only had to break out the pen for a few areas, and this was simply for minor cleanup, so not even an issue with the kit's panels themselves. The panels here are well chiseled, making the panel lining process a breeze. The third pro will be how well this kit handles its assembly. Wing Zero has a transformation baked into its design, but this doesn't nullify the stability of this kit. Furthermore, the construction of this kit is simple and easily manageable by builders of all levels. Even though there's some large awkward nubs, the rest of the nubs are easy to deal with, making for a quick cleanup. There's very minimal seam lines on this kit, and what is there can be easily masked as panel lines. Last but not least, the color-separated parts connect with a high degree of accuracy, snapping into place without issues, making for a solid, dependable build needing minimal work to look good out of the box. The fourth pro is going to be the detail that's included on this kit. The opening of the wing binders reveals a lot of wonderful mechanical and realistic detailing, as does the whole inner frame. I think the kit absolutely blows the Master Grade Proto Zero out of the water when it comes to inner frame details. The splitting armor gimmick seen on the articulation of the legs is also a really nice touch. This detail here lends to the aesthetics, but it also challenges you as a builder to step outside your comfort zone. It welcomes you to add more detail to these parts with some paint to really bring these details out to make this an even more impressively realistic kit. The final verdict. The Real Grade Wing Zero is an excellent addition to your Real Grade collection. This is a kit that I had a ton of fun with. Posing the kit around was a blast and very nostalgic for me. Well worth the added investment of an action-based 7 for it to live on and really show off the large expressive wings. This updated version of Wing Zero has a lot of welcome changes that really elevate the aesthetics of this classic design. I love its more sleek, streamlined look. This was a relaxing, enjoyable build. Nearly every aspect of this kit was easy, from assembly, panel lining, and most of the nub cleanup, with seam lines and mold lines being really minimal. This kit looks really good out of the box. Other than a handful of smaller parts, I'd even say that this kit would be easy for entry-level builders to pick up and have fun with. This kit gets a very easy recommendation from me. I would definitely pick this kit up once you can get your hands on it. If you like the look of the updated design, you're going to enjoy this kit. If you like kits that are extremely expressive on a stand, you're really going to enjoy this model. And the poses you can pull off here with this kit on a stand are incredible. I think the only people who won't enjoy this kit as much will be those that wish the design was a bit more anime accurate. With such an iconic and nostalgic Gundam, I can definitely understand their perspective. For me though, this kit ticks all the boxes, and is my favorite iteration of Wing Zero to date. I'm sure you're wondering where I would place this on my Real Grade Gundam tier list, and I'd have to put this on the higher side of A. While I really adore everything they've done with the Wing Zero here, it's not a perfect kit, and that's the criteria for an S tier. Wing Zero is nearly perfect, but like most kits, it does have a few quirks that keep it from being absolutely perfect. Still, don't let this detract you from a really well designed and engineered kit with a lot of charm and soul put into it. This has been my review of the Real Grade Wing Gundam Zero. I hope you enjoyed the review. This has been a step down memory lane for me, as I'm sure it is for many Gundam fans. If you made it this far into the video, drop a wing emoji in the comments below. I have to give a huge shout out to my subscribers. You guys make the impossible possible. This channel wouldn't be as successful as it is if it wasn't for all of you supporting me. Thank you all so much. Until the next video, be sure to stay safe, have fun, and happy building.